The email notification appeared on Tessa Vaughn's screen at exactly 9:47 on a Tuesday morning, and she knew immediately that her comfortable life was about to get complicated. The message was brief, professional, and utterly terrifying in its simplicity. The new CEO of Morrison Luxury Hotels wanted to meet with every department head individually, starting with her marketing division tomorrow at 8. Tessa leaned back in her chair and stared at the ceiling of her office, which overlooked the bustling streets of downtown Seattle. She had worked at Morrison Hotels for 6 years, climbing from a junior marketing associate to head of the entire marketing department. The company had always felt like family under the previous leadership, a sprawling hospitality empire that prided itself on both luxury and heart. But 3 weeks ago, everything changed when the board announced they were bringing in outside leadership to modernize and expand the brand. The new CEO was supposedly a legend in the hospitality industry. Wright. She had looked him up, of course. Everyone had. At 34, he had already turned 2 failing hotel chains into powerhouses, sold one for an astronomical profit, and now owned a portfolio of restaurants and properties worth hundreds of millions. The business magazines called him ruthless. The trade publications called him brilliant. The few interviews she found online showed a man with sharp features, intense dark eyes, and the kind of confidence that came from never having failed at anything that mattered. Tessa was 28, and she had built her career on creativity, relationship building, and an understanding of what made people feel welcomed. She worried that none of that would matter to someone like Wright. She went home that evening to her apartment in Capitol Hill and tried to relax, but her mind kept spinning. Her roommate and best friend, Daniela, found her pacing the kitchen at 7:30. "You are going to wear a hole in the floor," Daniela said, dropping her gym bag by the door. "What is going on?" "Meeting with the new CEO tomorrow," Tessa said. "Individual meeting, just me and him." "So you prepare your presentation and show him why you are amazing at your job," Daniela said, opening the refrigerator. "You have been running that department for 2 years. Your campaigns are incredible. The spring promotion you did increased bookings by 30%. 32%, Tessa corrected automatically. She sat down at the small kitchen table. "What if he wants to bring in his own people? What if he thinks everything we have been doing is wrong?" Daniela turned around with a container of leftover pasta in her hand. "Then he is an idiot and you find something better, but you are borrowing trouble. Just go in there, be yourself, and show him what you can do." Tessa nodded, but her stomach was still tight with anxiety. She barely slept that night, running through presentations in her mind, rehearsing answers to questions she imagined he might ask. When her alarm went off at 5:30, she had already been awake for an hour. She chose her outfit carefully, professional but not stuffy, a navy dress with a structured blazer that made her feel confident. She wore her dark hair down, which she usually did not do for work, but it made her feel more like herself. She needed that today. The Morrison Hotel's headquarters building was a sleek 20-story structure in downtown Seattle. All glass and steel with a lobby that showcased the elegant design, aesthetic the brand was known for. Tessa arrived at 7:30, giving herself time to review her materials one more time in her office. At 7:55, her assistant knocked on her door. "He is ready for you." Tessa gathered her portfolio and laptop and made her way to the executive floor. The CEO's office was at the end of a long hallway, behind double doors that had always seemed imposing even when kind. Grandfatherly Edward Morrison sat behind the desk. Now they felt downright intimidating. She knocked, heard a firm "come in," and pushed through the doors. Wright stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his back to her, phone pressed to his ear. He held up one finger in a gesture that said he would be just a moment. Tessa stood awkwardly by the door, clutching her portfolio. "I do not care what the contractor says," Roman said into the phone, his voice firm but not harsh. "We agreed on a timeline and we have events booked based on that timeline. Figure it out, Marcus. That is what I pay you for." He ended the call and turned around. The photographs had not done him justice. Roman Wright was tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair styled in a way that looked effortless but probably was not. He wore a charcoal suit that fit him perfectly, and when his eyes met hers, Tessa felt a jolt of something she could not quite name. They were a deep brown, intense and focused, but not cold like she had expected. "Tessa Vaughn," he said, and it was not a question. He gestured to the chairs arranged in front of his desk. "Please sit." She moved forward, hyper-aware of every step, and settled into the chair. Roman sat across from her, not behind the desk but in the other chair, which surprised her. It felt less formal, more like a conversation. "I have been reading your files," he said, pulling up something on the tablet in front of him. "Your spring campaign was impressive. Targeted social media, influencer partnerships, and the rediscover luxury angle resonated well with the demographic we want." "Thank you," Tessa said, her voice steadier than she felt. "We identified that post-pandemic travelers were looking for experiences that felt both safe and indulgent. The campaign emphasized our enhanced cleaning protocols while highlighting the luxury amenities." "Smart," Roman said. He set down the tablet and looked at her directly. "Tell me what you think Morrison Hotels needs most right now." It was a test, obviously. Tessa took a breath. "Honestly, we need to expand our digital presence without losing the personal touch that makes Morrison special. Our guests love that we know their names, remember their preferences, anticipate their needs. But we are not reaching the younger luxury travelers who book everything on their phones and expect seamless technology. We need to bridge that gap." Roman leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You have thought about this?" "It is my job to think about this," Tessa said, feeling a spark of confidence. "Morrison has incredible brand loyalty, but we are not growing our customer base fast enough. We need innovation that honors tradition." Something that might have been approval flickered across Roman's face. "What if I told you I want to launch a new campaign in the next 6 months? Something that will reposition Morrison as the premier choice for luxury travelers under 40. "I would say that is ambitious," Tessa said, "but possible, with the right strategy and budget." "Budget will not be an issue," Roman said. "I want ideas on my desk by next week. Think big, Tessa. This company has been playing it safe for too long." The meeting continued for another 30 minutes, but the tone had shifted. Roman asked intelligent questions about market research, customer analytics, and competitive positioning. He listened when she answered, actually listened, rather than waiting for his turn to talk. By the time she left his office, Tessa's anxiety had transformed into something else entirely: excitement. Over the next week, she threw herself into developing proposals. She worked late every night, fueled by coffee and creative energy. The ideas came fast: a mobile app redesign, experiential packages that combined local culture with luxury accommodations, partnerships with boutique brands, a loyalty program that felt exclusive rather than corporate. When she submitted her presentation, she felt good about it. No, she felt great about it. Roman called her back to his office 3 days later. This time, when she walked in, there was an energy in the room that had not been there before. "This is excellent work," he said without preamble, gesturing to her proposal on his screen. "I want to move forward with most of these. We need to talk budget, timeline, and team structure." They spent 2 hours going through every detail. Roman challenged her on several points, but not in a dismissive way. He wanted to understand her reasoning, wanted to make sure the strategy was sound. Tessa found herself debating with him, defending her ideas with a passion she usually kept locked down in professional settings. "You are not afraid to push back," Roman observed at one point. "I appreciate that." "You hired me to have opinions," Tessa said. "I am just doing my job." "Most people do not see it that way," Roman said. "They think their job is to agree with the CEO. Then they are not very good at their jobs," Tessa said, and then immediately wondered if she had gone too far. But Roman laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his entire face. "I think we are going to work well together, Tessa." Over the following weeks, that prediction proved true. The campaign became an all-consuming project, but in the best way. Roman was demanding, yes, but he was also supportive. He fought for her budget allocations in board meetings. He trusted her judgment when it came to creative decisions. He was, she discovered, nothing like the ruthless corporate shark the magazines had portrayed. They fell into a rhythm of long meetings that felt more like collaborations than presentations. Sometimes they worked through lunch, ordering food to the conference room and spreading materials across the table. Roman told her about his vision for Morrison, how he saw luxury hospitality evolving, why he had taken this job in the first place. "I could have stayed with acquisitions," he said one afternoon, looking out at the Seattle skyline. "Buy struggling properties, turn them around, sell them for profit. That was my model for years, but it started feeling empty. I wanted to build something, not just flip it." "Why Morrison?" Tessa asked. "Because it has soul," Roman said simply. "Most hotel chains feel identical no matter where you are. Morrison properties have character." Edward Morrison understood that luxury is not just about thread count and marble bathrooms. It is about making people feel seen. Tessa found herself watching him as he spoke, noticing things she probably should not notice. The way he ran his hand through his hair when he was thinking hard about something. The slight smile that appeared when he was pleased with an idea. The intensity in his eyes when he listened to her speak, like her words actually mattered. She tried not to think about it. He was her boss. This was professional. The excitement she felt before their meetings was about the work, not about him. At least, that was what she told herself. A month into the campaign development, Roman invited the senior leadership team to dinner at one of Morrison's flagship Seattle properties. It was meant to be a team-building exercise, a chance for everyone to connect outside the office. Tessa almost declined, claiming she had too much work, but Daniela had physically pushed her toward the door. "You have been living at that office," Daniela said. "Go, eat fancy food. Talk to adults about something other than market demographics." The restaurant was beautiful, all soft lighting and elegant table settings. Tessa arrived to find most of the team already there, drinks in hand, talking in small clusters. She gravitated toward Marcus Chen, the operations director, who she had worked with on several projects. "Surviving the Roman Wright experience?" Marcus asked with a grin. "It is intense," Tessa admitted, "but good. He actually cares about the work." "That is one way to put it," Marcus said. "The man does not know how to do anything halfway, but yeah, he is fair, demanding as hell, but fair." Roman arrived a few minutes later, and Tessa noticed that the energy in the room shifted. People stood a little straighter, smiled a little brighter. He commanded attention without trying. He made his way around the room, greeting everyone personally. When he reached Tessa, his smile seemed warmer somehow. "Glad you could make it. I know you have been putting in long hours." "So have you," Tessa said. "Yes, but I do not have much else to do," Roman said. "New city, do not know many people yet. Work is my social life at the moment." Tessa was surprised by that admission. She had assumed someone like Wright had a full life outside the office, probably a rotation of elegant dates and exclusive events. Dinner was served family style, and Tessa found herself seated directly across from Roman. The conversation flowed easily, touching on everything from Seattle's restaurant scene to travel horror stories to the future of hospitality. Roman was funny, she discovered. He had a dry wit that caught her off guard, making her laugh in ways that felt genuine and unguarded. At one point, the conversation turned to backgrounds. Marcus was talking about growing up in San Francisco, and someone asked where Roman was from. "All over, really," Roman said. "My father was in international business, so we moved constantly. Lived in London, Hong Kong, Dubai, New York. Boarding schools mostly after I was 12. "That sounds exciting," someone said. "It was lonely," Roman said simply, "but it taught me to adapt quickly." Tessa watched him, saw something vulnerable flicker across his face for just a moment. She wondered what it had been like, always being the new kid, never having a place that felt like home. Later, as people were finishing dessert and the conversation had broken into smaller groups, Roman leaned across the table slightly. "What about you, Tessa? Born and raised in Seattle?" "Close," she said. "Grew up in Spokane, moved here for college and never left. My family is still over there, though. I go back for holidays and big family events." "Big family, 3 brothers, 2 sisters. I am right in the middle. My parents still live in the house we grew up in." She smiled, thinking about it. "It is chaotic but warm. Everyone talks over each other and Sunday dinners are mandatory." "That sounds nice," Roman said, and there was something wistful in his voice. "It is," Tessa said. "What about you, siblings?" "One sister, Lydia. She lives in Boston with her husband and 2 kids. We talk every week, but I do not see her as often as I should." The conversation shifted then, pulled by someone asking Roman a question about the new properties he was considering acquiring. But Tessa felt like something had passed between them, some small understanding. As the evening wound down, people started leaving in clusters. Tessa was gathering her things when Roman appeared at her side. "Can I walk you out?" he asked. "Sure," Tessa said, trying to ignore the flutter in her chest. They rode the elevator down in comfortable silence. The lobby was quiet, the evening crowd having mostly dispersed. Outside, the Seattle night was cool and clear. "Thank you for coming tonight," Roman said. "I know these corporate dinner things can feel obligatory." "It was actually nice," Tessa said honestly. "Good to see everyone outside of the office pressure cooker." Roman laughed. "Is that what we have created, a pressure cooker?" "A productive pressure cooker," Tessa said. "I have actually been enjoying it. The campaign, I mean. It is the kind of project I have always wanted to lead." "You are doing an exceptional job," Roman said. His voice was serious now, professional. "I know I push hard, but I want you to know your work is valued." "Thank you," Tessa said. "That means a lot." They stood there for a moment, and Tessa became acutely aware of how close they were standing, how the streetlight cast shadows across Roman's face, how her heart was beating just a little too fast. "Well," she said, breaking the moment, "I should get going." "Early meeting tomorrow." "Right," Roman said, stepping back. "Good night, Tessa." "Good night." She walked to her car, very deliberately not looking back, and spent the entire drive home telling herself that whatever she was feeling was just professional admiration mixed with project excitement. Nothing more. She was lying to herself, and she knew it. The campaign launch was scheduled for early fall, which meant summer was consumed by preparation. Tessa's team worked around the clock developing creative assets, coordinating with vendors, finalizing partnerships. Roman was involved in every step, but he never micromanaged. He trusted her decisions, backed her up when challenges arose, and somehow always knew when she needed support versus when she needed space to figure things out herself. They developed an easy rapport, conversations flowing from business to personal and back again without effort. Tessa learned that Roman was an early riser who went for runs before dawn, that he was teaching himself to cook, but was still terrible at it, that he loved old jazz music and read biographies obsessively. Roman learned that Tessa was fiercely loyal to her team, that she stress-baked when projects got intense, bringing elaborate desserts to the office, that she had wanted to be a writer before discovering marketing, and sometimes still journaled late at night when she could not sleep. "Why marketing instead of writing?" Roman asked one evening. They were alone in the conference room, reviewing final proofs for print materials. It was past 8 and most of the building had emptied out. Tessa shrugged. "Practicality, I guess. Writing felt too uncertain, too risky. Marketing was creative but also strategic. It felt like a safer choice." "You regret it?" She thought about that. "No, I love what I do. But sometimes I wonder about the life I did not choose, you know." "I do," Roman said quietly. "I was supposed to take over my father's company. It was just assumed. He built this international trading empire and I was the son, so obviously I would follow in his footsteps. But you did not." "I could not," Roman said. "It was his dream, not mine. We had a massive fight about it when I was 25. He told me I was throwing away my future. We barely spoke for 2 years after that." "That must have been hard," Tessa said softly. "Hardest thing I have ever done," Roman admitted. "But it would have been harder to live a life that was not mine. We have a better relationship now, actually. He respects that I built something on my own terms, even if it was not what he wanted." Tessa looked at him, saw the vulnerability in his expression, and felt something shift inside her chest. "I think that was brave, or stubborn," Roman said with a slight smile. "Those are not mutually exclusive." He laughed at that and the tension broke. They went back to reviewing materials, but the air between them felt different somehow, charged with something neither of them was quite ready to name. The following week, Tessa's mother called just as she was leaving the office. She almost let it go to voicemail but knew her mother would just keep calling. "Hi, Mom. Tessa, sweetheart, I have not heard from you in weeks. Are you alive?" "I am alive, just busy. We have this huge campaign launching soon." "You work too hard," her mother said, which was a familiar refrain. "When are you coming home for a visit? Your father wants to barbecue before the weather turns." "I do not know, Mom. Things are really intense right now. You need to make time for family, Tessa. Work will always be there." Guilt pricked at her. Her mother was right. She had been so consumed by the campaign and, if she was honest, by Roman that she had neglected everything else. "I will try to come in a few weeks," Tessa promised. "After the launch. We will hold you to that. Oh, and the church is having its summer festival next month." "Father Michael specifically asked about you." Tessa tensed slightly. "Mom." "What? He was just asking. You know you are always welcome at services, sweetheart. The community misses you." "I know, Mom. I just have not been going to church much lately." "I know, and I do not judge you for that. But faith is important, Tessa. It grounds us, especially when we are stressed and busy." "I have to go, Mom. Talk soon, okay?" She ended the call feeling unsettled. Her family was deeply Catholic, generations of tradition and practice. Tessa had grown up attending Mass every Sunday, had made her first communion and confirmation, had been active in youth group. But somewhere in college, she had drifted away. Not out of any crisis of faith exactly, more that it had stopped feeling essential. She still believed, sort of, but religion was not the center of her life the way it was for her parents. It was something she tried not to think about too much. This gap between who her family expected her to be and who she actually was. That night, unable to sleep, she found herself reading through one of the business profiles written about Roman. It mentioned, almost in passing, that he practiced Islam. She had not known that. It had never come up in their conversations, which now seemed strange. How could they have spent so many hours talking without touching on something so fundamental? She wondered if he was religious the way her family was religious, or if it was more cultural, more background. She wondered if it mattered. She told herself it did not. They were colleagues working on a project together. His religion, her lapsed Catholicism, none of it was relevant, but she could not shake the feeling that she was lying to herself again. The campaign launched in September to overwhelming response. The digital metrics exceeded every projection. Bookings surged. The business press covered it, calling Morrison hotels a brand to watch. Roman presented the results to the board, and when he came back from that meeting, he went straight to Tessa's office. "They want to double your budget for next year," he said, grinning wider than she had ever seen. "And they approved 3 new positions for your team." Tessa felt tears prick at her eyes. "Really? Really? Tessa, you did this. This was your vision, your execution. You should be incredibly proud." Before she could think about it, she hugged him. It was impulsive and completely unprofessional, but she was so overwhelmed with relief and joy that she could not help it. Roman froze for half a second, then his arms came around her, solid and warm. They stood like that for a moment too long, and when Tessa pulled back, her face was flushed. "Sorry," she said. "That was inappropriate." "No," Roman said, his voice slightly rough. "It was not. We should celebrate. Let me take you to dinner. Please, you have earned it." Tessa knew she should say no, should suggest a team celebration instead, should maintain the professional boundaries that were already feeling dangerously thin. "Okay," she said. "Yes, dinner sounds great." Roman took her to a restaurant she had never been to, tucked away in a neighborhood she rarely visited. It was elegant, but not stuffy, the kind of place that felt special without trying too hard. They were seated at a corner table, slightly removed from the other diners, and the lighting was soft and warm. "I feel like I should have gone home and changed," Tessa said, looking down at her work clothes. "You look perfect," Roman said, and the way he said it made her heart skip. They ordered wine and food, and the conversation flowed like it always did between them. But there was something different about being here, in this intimate setting, without laptops or agendas or campaign materials between them. This was not a working dinner. This was something else entirely. "Can I ask you something personal?" Tessa said, emboldened by the wine and the success of the day. "Of course." "I read that you are Muslim. Is that accurate?" Roman looked surprised but not uncomfortable. "Yes, is that a problem?" "No, not at all. I was just surprised we have never talked about it. We have talked about so many things, but never that." Roman took a sip of his wine. "I suppose I keep it private at work. People have assumptions, you know. They hear Muslim CEO and they make judgments, positive or negative, without knowing anything real about me or my faith." "What is real about it for you?" Tessa asked. Roman was quiet for a moment, considering. "It is foundational to who I am. I pray 5 times a day when I can, though I will admit my Fajr prayer is often rushed before morning runs. I fast during Ramadan. I try to live according to the principles I was raised with: generosity, humility, justice, though I fail at those regularly." "That does not sound like failure," Tessa said. "That sounds like someone actually trying to live their values." "What about you?" Roman asked. "I have heard you mention your family's big Sunday dinners. Is faith part of that?" Tessa felt her cheeks warm. "My family is Catholic, very Catholic. Church every Sunday, saints' feast days, the whole thing. I grew up completely immersed in it." "But not anymore." "I do not know," Tessa said honestly. "I have not been to Mass in months, maybe longer." It is not that I do not believe in God. I just do not know if I believe in it all the way my family does. And that creates this weird guilt, like I am letting them down somehow. Do they pressure you about it? Not overtly. But my mom makes little comments. And I know they pray for me, which sounds sweet but also feels like they think I am lost. She laughed, but it came out bitter. Sorry, this is probably too heavy for a celebration dinner. Not at all, Roman said. Faith is complicated. My family is Muslim, yes, but we were never the type to judge others for their choices. My sister's husband is agnostic. My father had business partners from every background imaginable. Islam teaches that there is no compulsion in religion. Everyone must find their own path. That sounds peaceful, Tessa said. It can be. But it is also hard sometimes, being a minority faith in places where people do not understand it. I have had business deals fall through when people learned I was Muslim. I have had colleagues make jokes about terrorism, thinking it was harmless. I have walked into rooms and watched people decide who I was before I said a single word. Tessa felt a surge of anger on his behalf. That is horrible. It is reality, Roman said with a shrug. But I refuse to hide who I am because some people are ignorant. My faith is not a liability. It is a source of strength. Looking at him across the table, Tessa felt something inside her shift. Roman was not just brilliant and driven and successful. He was principled. He was grounded in something deeper than ambition. And somehow, instead of their different faiths being a barrier, learning about his made her want to understand her own better. I admire that, she said quietly. I think I have been running from the religion question because it is easier than figuring out what I actually believe. Maybe do not think of it as running, Roman said. Maybe you are just on a different part of your journey than your family is on theirs. That is allowed, Tessa. The way he said her name, warm and certain, made her breath catch. Their eyes met across the table, and suddenly the air felt thick with all the things they were not saying. The waiter appeared, breaking the moment, asking about dessert. They declined, and Roman paid the check despite Tessa's protests. Outside the restaurant, the night air was cool, carrying the scent of rain that had not yet fallen. Thank you for tonight, Tessa said, for celebrating with me, for the conversation. Thank you for trusting me with it, Roman said. I know talking about faith can be uncomfortable. It was not. Uncomfortable, I mean. It was actually really nice. They stood on the sidewalk, neither quite ready to leave, the city moving around them. Tessa knew she should go home, should put distance between herself and whatever was building here, but she did not want to. Tessa, Roman said, and there was something in his voice that made her pulse race. I need to tell you something. Okay. This is not just about work for me anymore. These past months, getting to know you, working with you. You are brilliant and creative and passionate about what you do, but it is more than that. You challenge me. You make me laugh. You see things in ways I have never considered. And I know this is complicated because of our working relationship, but I cannot keep pretending I do not feel this. Tessa's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. Roman, if this is not mutual, tell me now and we will never speak of it again. I will be nothing but professional, but if there is any chance you feel this too, I need to know. She could have lied. Could have protected herself, protected the job she loved, protected the easy dynamic they had built. But standing there looking at him, she found she did not want to. I feel it too, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I have been trying not to, but I do. Roman closed the distance between them in 2 steps. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheek, and then he was kissing her. It was soft at first, tentative, a question. Tessa answered by pressing closer, her hands finding the front of his shirt, and the kiss deepened into something that made her forget they were standing on a public sidewalk in the middle of Seattle. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Roman rested his forehead against hers. "I have wanted to do that for weeks." "Me too," Tessa admitted. "This is going to be complicated," Roman said. "I know. We will need to be careful at work. I do not want anyone thinking you got your position because of a relationship with me." "I earned my position," Tessa said firmly. "I know you did, but people will talk regardless. We need to be smart about this." "So what are you saying?" Roman pulled back enough to look at her properly. "I am saying I want to do this right. Take you on actual dates. Get to know you outside of conference rooms and campaign launches. See where this goes without the pressure of the office watching our every move. Can we do that?" "Yes," Tessa said, smiling. "Yes, we can do that." They made out for a few more stolen moments before reluctantly separating to their respective cars. Tessa drove home in a daze, her lips still tingling, her mind racing. When she got back to the apartment, Daniela took one look at her face and screamed. Something happened. "Oh my God, something happened with the CEO." "His name is Roman," Tessa said, unable to stop smiling. "You kissed him." "He kissed me." "Well, mutually. We mutually kissed." Daniela grabbed her hands, bouncing excitedly. "Tell me everything right now." Tessa did, leaving out only the most intimate details. Daniela listened with wide eyes, occasionally interjecting with excited squeals. "This is amazing," Daniela said when she finished. "He sounds amazing. But Tessa, what about the religious thing? Your family is going to lose their minds if you date a Muslim man." The joy in Tessa's chest dimmed slightly. She had not thought about that yet, had been too caught up in the moment. "They do not need to know yet. We are just starting to date. But eventually they will need to know. And you know how your mom is about church and faith and all of that." "I know," Tessa said, feeling defensive. "But this is my life, Daniela. I get to choose who I date." "I am not saying you do not. I am just saying be prepared for it to be complicated." Tessa went to bed that night feeling the competing poles of happiness and anxiety. She wanted to just enjoy this unexpected connection with someone extraordinary, but she could not shake Daniela's words. Her family would have opinions, strong opinions, and she had no idea how to navigate that. She and Roman kept their relationship quiet at work. They were professional in meetings, careful not to show favoritism or special attention. But they found ways to be together outside the office. Weekend dinners at restaurants far from the office crowd. Long walks around Green Lake. A Saturday afternoon at the Seattle Art Museum where they wandered through galleries and argued playfully about modern art. Roman was attentive in ways Tessa had never experienced. He remembered things she mentioned in passing. He asked about her friends, her interests outside of work. He was genuinely curious about her life, her thoughts, her dreams. And in turn, she learned more about him. She learned that he woke before dawn not just for exercise but for Fajr, the morning prayer. That he kept a prayer rug in his office and would sometimes slip away during the day for the midday or afternoon prayers when meetings allowed. That his faith was woven into his daily life in ways both visible and invisible. One evening, about 3 weeks into their relationship, Tessa arrived at Roman's apartment for dinner to find him in the living room, prayer rug laid out facing east, performing his Maghrib prayer. She stood quietly in the entryway, not wanting to interrupt, watching the precise movements of standing, bowing, prostrating. There was something beautiful about it, the discipline and devotion. When he finished, he rolled up the rug and smiled at her. "Sorry, I was running late today. Had to squeeze this in." "Do not apologize," Tessa said. "It was actually beautiful to watch. I hope that is not weird to say." "Not weird at all." Roman walked over and kissed her hello, then led her to the kitchen where he had attempted to cook dinner. The kitchen was a disaster, but the effort was endearing. "I am still terrible at this," he admitted, gesturing to the slightly burned chicken. "It is perfect," Tessa said and meant it. They ate on his balcony, looking out at the city lights. Tessa found herself asking questions about his faith, things she had been curious about but had not known how to bring up. "What is it like during Ramadan?" she asked. "Challenging," Roman said honestly. "Not eating or drinking from dawn to sunset is hard, especially during business days. But it is also clarifying. It reminds me to be grateful for what I have, to focus on what is important beyond physical needs." "You do it every year." "I do. I have since I was old enough. There have been years where it was harder than others. The year I was launching my first hotel acquisition, Ramadan fell during the busiest time of negotiations. I was fasting while sitting through 10-hour meetings, and people kept offering me coffee and food. But I made it through. That must have taken incredible willpower." "It took faith," Roman corrected gently. "The willpower came from knowing why I was doing it, what it meant to me." Tessa was quiet for a moment, thinking. "I do not have that certainty about faith. I envy it, honestly." "Faith is not always certainty," Roman said. "I have doubts. I have moments where I question things, where I struggle to reconcile what I believe with what I see in the world. But the foundation is still there. It grounds me even when things feel uncertain." "How did you build that foundation?" "Honestly, a lot of it was my mother. She passed away when I was 19, but before that, she was the one who taught me about Islam. Not just the rules and rituals, but the spirit of it. She used to say that faith without compassion is just performance. That what mattered was how you treated people, how you moved through the world." "She sounds wonderful." "She was," Roman said softly. "Losing her was the hardest thing I have ever gone through, but her lessons stayed with me. In some ways, my faith is my way of staying connected to her." Tessa reached across the table and took his hand. "Thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you for asking, for being curious rather than uncomfortable." "Why would I be uncomfortable?" Roman gave her a look. "Tessa, I have dated before. Many women say they are fine with the Muslim thing, but they do not actually want to engage with what it means. They want me despite my faith, not including it. You are different." "I want to understand all of you," Tessa said. "Your faith is part of that." The conversation stayed with her over the following days. She found herself thinking about her own religious background in ways she had not in years. What had it given her? What did she miss about it? What had she been running from on impulse? One Sunday morning, she drove to a church near her apartment. Not the big Catholic church her family attended in Spokane, but a smaller parish in Capitol Hill. She slipped into the back pew just as Mass was starting. It was familiar and strange all at once. The rituals were the same ones she had grown up with. The standing and sitting and kneeling, the prayers recited in unison, the Eucharistic liturgy. But experiencing it as an adult, with years of distance, it felt different. She found herself listening to the homily, actually listening, thinking about the priest's words about service and community and love. She did not take communion. That felt too much like lying, claiming a faith she was not sure she still held. But she stayed through the end, and when she walked out into the bright morning, she felt something shift inside her. Not a return to belief exactly, but an openness to exploration. She did not tell Roman about going to church. She was not sure why. It felt private, like something she needed to figure out for herself before sharing it, but he noticed the shift in her. "You seem different lately," he said one evening. They were at her apartment, having abandoned a movie in favor of conversation on the couch. "Different how?" "Lighter, maybe. Less conflicted." Tessa curled into his side, resting her head on his shoulder. "I went to Mass last Sunday, first time in over a year." Roman's arm tightened around her. "How was it? Strange? Familiar?" I do not know if I am Catholic again or whatever, but it felt good to go, to sit with those questions instead of running from them. I think that is brave, Roman said. You keep saying that I am brave, because you are. You are confronting things that are uncomfortable. That is courage, Tessa. She tilted her head up to look at him. You make me want to be better, to figure out who I actually am instead of just coasting. Roman kissed her, slow and deep, and for a while they stopped talking altogether. The first real complication came in November. Morrison Hotels was hosting a gala fundraiser for a local charity, a major event that had been planned for months. As head of marketing, Tessa had coordinated much of the promotion and logistics. As CEO, Roman would be the face of the event, giving speeches and schmoozing with donors. And as a couple, they would be navigating a public event together for the first time. We do not have to arrive together, Roman said during one of their planning meetings. We can keep it professional. Or we could just be honest, Tessa said. We have been dating for 2 months. People are going to find out eventually. Are you sure? I do not want you to face gossip or judgment because of me. Roman, I am not ashamed of this, of us. Are you? Of course not. I just want to protect you. I do not need protection. I need you to trust that I can handle whatever comes. So they arrived together, Tessa in an emerald green gown that made her feel elegant and powerful, Roman in a tuxedo that made her heart race. The look started immediately. Whispers, raised eyebrows, speculative glances. But Roman kept his hand on the small of her back, steady and sure, and Tessa held her head high. You are stunning, he murmured in her ear during a quiet moment. You are not so bad yourself, she said, smiling up at him. The evening went smoothly until Tessa found herself cornered by Helen Pritchard, one of the board members and a notorious gossip. Tessa, dear, I did not realize you and Roman were an item, Helen said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. We have been seeing each other for a while, Tessa said evenly. How interesting. And does your family know? I seem to recall you mentioning once that your family is quite religious. Catholic, is that right? Tessa felt her stomach tighten. My family is Catholic, yes. And Roman is Muslim, I believe. That must create some interesting conversations. Different faiths are not a problem for us, Tessa said, keeping her voice pleasant but firm. If you will excuse me, I need to check on the silent auction. She escaped before Helen could dig deeper, but the interaction left her rattled. It was the first time someone had directly pointed out the religious difference, had implied it was something to overcome rather than just another facet of their relationship. Roman found her a few minutes later. You okay? You look upset. Helen Pritchard is a nosy busybody, Tessa said. What did she say? Tessa hesitated, then told him. Roman's jaw tightened. I can have a word with her. No, it is fine. She is right, though. We have not talked about how our families will react to this. To us. Does it matter? Roman asked. We are adults, Tessa. Our families do not get to dictate our relationships. Easy to say when your family is accepting. You said your sister's husband is agnostic and no one cared. My family is not like that. Have you told them about us? No. Have you told yours? My sister knows. She is excited for me, wants to meet you. Tessa felt a pang of guilt and fear. I need to tell my family, I know that. I am just not ready for the reaction yet. Roman pulled her close, right there in the middle of the gala. Whenever you are ready, we will face it together. Okay, Tessa said, but the knot in her stomach did not loosen. 2 weeks later, Tessa could not avoid it anymore. Her mother called to finalize plans for Thanksgiving, assuming Tessa would come home to Spokane like she did every year. I am bringing someone, Tessa blurted out before she could lose her nerve. There was a pause. Someone? You mean a date, a boyfriend? His name is Roman and he is important to me and I want you all to meet him. Her mother's voice shifted to something excited. Tessa, that is wonderful. Why did you not tell me you were seeing someone? How long has this been going on? A few months. What does he do? Where is he from? Tessa took a breath. He is the CEO of my company, and Mom, he is Muslim. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Finally, her mother spoke, her voice carefully neutral. I see. Well, we look forward to meeting him. Mom, please do not make this weird. I am not making anything weird, Tessa. You are bringing your boyfriend to Thanksgiving. That is lovely. We will all be on our best behavior. But Tessa could hear the strain in her mother's voice, the unspoken questions and concerns. She got off the phone feeling worse than before she had called. Roman was understanding when she told him. We do not have to go if you think it will cause problems. No, I want you to meet them. I want them to see what I see in you. I just need to prepare you for what you are walking into. Tessa, I have dealt with prejudice before. I can handle some uncomfortable questions from your family. It is not just questions. It is my mom making pointed comments about church and faith. It is my dad who is going to judge you based on assumptions he has probably picked up from conservative news sources. It is my siblings who will either be aggressively, overly polite, or weirdly hostile. I just need you to know what you are signing up for. Roman took her hands in his. I am signing up for you. Whatever comes with that, we will handle it. Thanksgiving arrived cold and drizzly, typical November weather in eastern Washington. Tessa drove with Roman in his car, a sleek Audi that made her self-conscious about bringing him into her parents' modest, split-level house. The neighborhood was nice enough, but it was not wealth. It was solidly middle class, a place where people mowed their own lawns and fixed their own cars. You are nervous, Roman observed as they pulled into the driveway. Terrified, Tessa admitted. They are your family. They love you. It will be fine. Tessa wished she had his confidence. They walked up to the door, and before Tessa could knock, it flew open. Her youngest sister, Bridget, stood there grinning. You must be the boyfriend, Bridget said. I am Bridget. Come in before you freeze. Inside was chaos, exactly as Tessa had known it would be. Her 3 brothers were shouting at the football game on television. Her other sister, Maureen, was in the kitchen with their mother. The house smelled like turkey and stuffing and pie, familiar and comforting. Tessa's father came out from the living room, a tall man with gray hair and a wary expression. Dad, this is Roman. Roman, my father, Patrick Vaughn. Good to meet you, sir, Roman said, extending his hand. Her father shook it, his grip firm but not warm. Roman. Interesting name. What kind of name is that, Dad? Tessa said, a warning in her voice. It is a family name, Roman said easily. My grandfather. And where is your family from? All over. My father is Egyptian, my mother was Lebanese, but I grew up mostly in the States. Egyptian, her father repeated. Muslim then. Dad, can we not do this right now? Tessa said, her cheeks burning. It is all right, Roman said calmly. Yes, Mr. Vaughn, I am Muslim. I understand that might be different from what you are used to, but I assure you my faith teaches me to respect everyone, regardless of their background. Her father grunted, non-committal, and returned to the living room. Tessa wanted to die of embarrassment, but Roman just squeezed her hand reassuringly. Her mother emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She looked at Roman, and Tessa could see her doing rapid calculations, trying to reconcile her expectations with the reality of the polished, confident man standing in her entryway. You must be Roman, her mother said, her voice carefully polite. I am Nancy. Welcome to our home. Thank you for having me, Mrs. Vaughn. Tessa speaks about her family often. It is clear how much you mean to her. Nancy softened slightly at that. Well, family is everything. Come, you must be hungry from the drive. The afternoon was an exercise in tension management. Tessa's brothers were curious but standoffish. Maureen pulled Tessa aside at one point and hissed, "He is gorgeous, and rich, obviously, but Mom is freaking out, I know. You could not have picked someone Catholic. There are millions of Catholic men in Seattle." "I did not pick him, Maureen." "We fell in love." Maureen's expression softened. "You love him." "I do," Tessa said, and realized as she said it that it was absolutely true. Roman, for his part, handled everything with grace. He answered questions patiently, complimented her mother's cooking, talked sports with her brothers, and never once seemed uncomfortable. It was only during dinner, when her father said grace and the whole family made the sign of the cross, that Tessa saw Roman's discomfort. Not with the prayer itself, but with the pointed way her father stared at him throughout it, as if daring him to object. After dinner, while the family was dispersing to digest and watch more football, Tessa's mother pulled her aside into the kitchen. "He seems like a nice young man," her mother said carefully. "He is, Mom. He is incredible. But Tessa, have you thought about what this means? He is not Catholic. He is not even Christian." "I know what faith he is, Mom. How will you raise children? What church will you attend?" These are not small questions. We have not gotten that far yet. We are just dating. But where is it going? You do not just date at your age, Tessa. You date with intention, and I need to know that you have thought about the implications. Tessa felt tears prick at her eyes. "The implication is that I love him and he loves me. Why is not that enough? Because love is not all you need to build a life together. Shared values matter. Shared faith matters. I am not saying this to hurt you, sweetheart. I am saying it because I want you to be happy, and I worry that this path will lead to heartbreak. Or maybe it will lead to something beautiful," Tessa said. "Maybe our different faiths will make us stronger, not weaker." Her mother looked at her sadly. "I hope you are right. I truly do. But I will pray for you both." It was not the acceptance Tessa wanted, but it was something. She went back to the living room to find Roman deep in conversation with her brother Liam about hotel management. He looked up when she entered, smiled at her, and something in her chest settled. This was right. He was right. Whatever challenges they faced, they would face them together. They left early, claiming the long drive back to Seattle. As they pulled out of the driveway, Tessa let out a breath she felt like she had been holding all day. "That was awful. I am so sorry." "It was not awful," Roman said. "It was awkward, yes, but I have been through worse. My dad was so rude, and my mom with her passive-aggressive prayer promises. They are protective of you. They want to make sure you are making the right choice. I get that." Tessa turned to look at him. "Are you just going to be understanding about everything? Because I am allowed to be angry on your behalf, you know," Roman laughed. "Be as angry as you want. But Tessa, I meant what I said to your father. My faith teaches me respect and compassion even when it is not returned. And I understand that I am not what they envisioned for you. That takes adjustment." "You are exactly what I need," Tessa said fiercely. "And if they cannot see that, it is their loss." "I love you," Roman said suddenly. "I know this is not the most romantic moment to say it, but I do. I love you, Tessa." Tessa felt her heart swell. "I love you too. I told my sister that today, and I meant it." They spent the rest of the drive talking about everything and nothing, the tension of the day melting away. When they got back to Seattle, Roman pulled up to her apartment but did not let her get out immediately. "I want you to know something," he said. "I am in this. Fully. Whatever challenges come, whatever obstacles we face from family or work or society, I am committed to us. To you." "I am too," Tessa said. "Completely." He kissed her then, slow and sweet, and Tessa knew that whatever came next, they would figure it out together. Over the following weeks, Tessa found herself thinking more deeply about faith than she had in years. Dating Roman did not just make her curious about Islam, it made her examine her own relationship with Catholicism. What did she believe? What mattered to her? What was tradition and what was true conviction? She started attending Mass more regularly, not every week but often. She met with a priest at the church near her apartment, Father David, a younger man who listened without judgment as she talked about her doubts and questions. "I do not know if I fully believe anymore," Tessa admitted during one of their conversations. "But I miss the community, the ritual, the sense of something bigger than myself." "Faith is a journey," Father David said. "It is not always linear. Sometimes we drift away so that we can come back with deeper understanding, and sometimes we come back to find that our faith looks different than it did before. My family wants me to be the same Catholic girl I was when I was 16, but I am not her anymore." "No, you are not. You are a woman with your own experiences, your own relationships, your own questions. God meets us where we are, Tessa, not where others think we should be." Those conversations helped. So did talking with Roman about his own faith journey. He was open about the times he had struggled, the moments he had felt disconnected from his practice, the ways his understanding of Islam had deepened as he matured. "When I was younger, I followed the rules because they were rules," Roman said one evening. They were at his apartment, curled up on the couch with tea. "I prayed because I was supposed to. I fasted because it was expected. But as I got older, I started to understand the why behind it all. The prayers are not just ritual. They are a way to recenter myself throughout the day. Fasting is not just about discipline. It is about empathy for those who go hungry every day. Charity is not just obligation. It is recognition that what I have is not truly mine, but a trust to be used for good." "That is beautiful," Tessa said. "It is also hard. I fail constantly. I get caught up in work and miss prayers. I lose patience when I should be compassionate. I hoard my time and resources when I should be generous. Faith is not about perfection. It is about always trying to align yourself with something greater." "I think that is what I have been missing," Tessa said slowly. "Not the specific doctrines or rituals, but that sense of purpose, of being part of something bigger." "You can have that without being religious," Roman said. "Plenty of people find meaning through community service or art or family. Religion is one path, but it is not the only one. I know, but I think I want it to be my path, or a path, I am not sure yet." "Take your time figuring it out," Roman said, kissing her forehead. "I am not going anywhere." In January, Roman's sister Lydia visited Seattle. She was warm and funny and immediately embraced Tessa. Over lunch at a waterfront restaurant, she shared stories of Roman as a kid that made Tessa laugh until her sides hurt. "He was so serious," Lydia said, "even as a child. Always following the rules, always trying to be perfect. Our mother used to tell him to loosen up, have fun, but that was not who he was." "I am right here," Roman protested, but he was smiling. "You needed someone to shake you up," Lydia said, turning to Tessa. "And I think you are that person." I have never seen him this happy. Later, when Roman stepped away to take a phone call, Lydia leaned across the table. "He loves you very much, you know. He talks about you constantly. It is actually kind of annoying." Tessa laughed. "I love him too. I can tell. And I know your family has been less than welcoming because of the whole Muslim-Catholic thing. For what it is worth, I think it is beautiful. My husband and I come from different backgrounds, and it has enriched our lives immeasurably. Our kids are being raised with so many traditions and perspectives. It is a gift, not a burden." "I am trying to see it that way," Tessa said, "but it is hard when my mother keeps sending me articles about interfaith marriage challenges. Mothers worry. It is what they do. But you and Roman, you are solid. I can see it. You will figure it out." Lydia's confidence bolstered Tessa. If Roman's family could accept her despite their differences, maybe her family would come around too. It would just take time. In March, Morrison Hotels announced a major expansion. 3 new properties in key markets, a doubling of their corporate presence. The news was huge, and Roman was at the center of it all. But one evening, after a particularly grueling day of press conferences and strategy meetings, he came to Tessa's apartment looking exhausted. "I need to tell you something," he said as they sat on her couch. Tessa's heart sank. "That sounds ominous." "Not ominous, just complicated. The board wants me to relocate to New York for 6 months to oversee the flagship property launch there. It is a critical project, and they want senior leadership on site. 6 months. I told them I needed to discuss it with you first." Tessa felt a surge of emotions: fear, pride, sadness, love. "Roman, this is your job, your career. You do not need my permission." "I am not asking for permission. I am asking how you feel about it, about us." Tessa thought carefully before answering. "I do not want you to go. But I do not want to hold you back either. This is important." "You are important," Roman said fiercely. "More important than any job." "That is not true, and we both know it. Your work matters. This company matters. And this expansion is something you have been building toward since you got here." "Come with me," Roman said suddenly. "Come to New York. You can work remotely or take a leave, or we can figure out a role for you there. I cannot just leave my team. My department is thriving and they need consistent leadership. So we do long distance for 6 months. It will be hard, but we can make it work." Tessa looked at him, at the determination in his eyes, and felt a wave of love so intense it almost hurt. 6 months. We can do 6 months. Are you sure?" "No," Tessa admitted, "but I am sure about you, about us. So we will figure it out." Roman left for New York in April. The first few weeks were brutal. They video called every day, but it was not the same as being together. Tessa threw herself into work, using the long hours to avoid thinking about how much she missed him, but they made it work. Roman flew back to Seattle twice a month when he could. Tessa visited him in New York for long weekends. They talked for hours about their days, their challenges, their dreams, and somehow the distance made certain conversations easier. They talked about the future in concrete terms: marriage, children, where they would live, how they would navigate their different faiths. "I want our kids to know both traditions," Tessa said one night. "I want them to grow up understanding Islam and Catholicism, to see faith as something that connects people rather than divides them." "I want that too," Roman said. "I want them to have choice, to explore and question and find their own path." "My mother will have opinions," Tessa warned. "Let her. We will raise our children with love and respect, and that is what will matter." Those conversations gave Tessa hope. They were building something real, something lasting. The religious differences that had seemed so daunting at first were becoming an integral part of their relationship, a source of richness rather than conflict. In June, during one of Roman's visits to Seattle, he took Tessa to Discovery Park for a sunset picnic. They walked along the trails, watching the light turn golden over the water. Roman was quieter than usual, and Tessa wondered if something was wrong. "You okay?" she asked. "I've been thinking," Roman said, "about us, about the future." "That sounds serious." "It is." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "Tessa, these past months apart have been hard, but they have also clarified something for me. I do not want to do life without you. I do not want to wake up alone in hotel rooms wishing you were there. I do not want to celebrate successes or process failures without you by my side." Tessa's heart started to race. "Roman." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "I know this is fast. I know we still have things to figure out. But I love you completely and I want to build a life with you. So Tessa Vaughn, will you marry me?" He opened the box to reveal a stunning ring, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds that caught the evening light. Tessa felt tears streaming down her face. "Yes," she said, her voice breaking. Yes, of course yes. Roman slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her, deep and sure, and Tessa felt like her heart might burst from happiness. They stood there on the trail, wrapped in each other as the sun set over the water and the world felt impossibly perfect. The joy of the engagement was complicated by the reality of telling their families. Roman's sister was ecstatic. His father was pleased, welcoming Tessa warmly during a video call. But Tessa's family was another story. She told them over Sunday dinner, having driven to Spokane specifically for the conversation. When she showed them the ring, her mother's face went through a series of emotions: surprise, happiness, worry, resignation. "Congratulations, sweetheart," her mother said, hugging her. But her eyes were sad. "Mom, please be happy for me." "I am. I just worry about the practicalities. Where will you get married? Will it be a Catholic ceremony? We have not decided yet. We want to honor both of our traditions." "The church will not recognize an interfaith marriage unless he converts." "Then maybe the church will not recognize it," Tessa said, her voice firm. "But God will, and that is what matters to me." Her father was quieter, but his disapproval was clear. "You are making things harder than they need to be, Tessa. Or maybe I am choosing love over convenience. Roman is a good man. He is kind and principled, and he makes me happier than I have ever been. Is not that what you want for me?" "I want you to have a partner who shares your faith," her father said. "Who will raise your children in the church? Who will be buried beside you in consecrated ground? These things matter." "They do not matter more than love," Tessa said. The conversation went in circles, exhausting and painful. Tessa left Spokane feeling raw and frustrated, but when she called Roman from the road, his voice steadied her. "We will get through this," he said. "Your family loves you, they will come around. What if they do not? Then we build our own family, our own traditions. It will not be what they wanted, but it will be ours." Planning the wedding became an exercise in diplomacy. They decided on a ceremony that incorporated elements of both faiths without being exclusively either one. A friend of Roman's, an imam who was open-minded and progressive, agreed to officiate alongside Father David, who had become an important spiritual advisor to Tessa. The ceremony would include Islamic prayers and Catholic blessings. They would exchange vows they wrote themselves, promises that spoke to their specific love and their commitment to honoring both of their backgrounds. It was unconventional, but it felt right. Tessa's mother cried when she explained the plan, but eventually agreed to come. "I do not understand it," she said, "but you are my daughter and I will be there." It was not full acceptance, but it was something. The wedding took place in September, a year after their first kiss, in a garden venue overlooking Puget Sound. The weather was perfect, warm and clear, the kind of day that felt like a gift. Tessa wore a dress that was elegant but not overly traditional. Roman wore a charcoal suit that made him look impossibly handsome. As Tessa walked down the aisle on her father's arm, she saw Roman waiting for her, his eyes bright with emotion. Beside him stood his father and sister. In the front row, her mother dabbed at tears with a tissue. The rows were filled with people they loved, colleagues from Morrison, friends from both of their lives, family members who had traveled to be there. The ceremony was beautiful. The imam spoke about marriage in Islam, about partnership and mercy and love. Father David spoke about the Catholic understanding of marriage as a sacrament, a visible sign of God's grace. And then Tessa and Roman spoke their vows, promises they had crafted together over late-night conversations and early-morning phone calls. "I promise to honor your faith while staying true to my own," Tessa said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "I promise to build a home with you where tradition and innovation live side by side. I promise to love you through every challenge and celebrate every joy." I promise to be your partner in all things. I promise to cherish your questions and your certainties, Roman said. I promise to create space for both of our beliefs to flourish. I promise to be patient, to listen, to always choose love. I promise to wake up every day grateful that you chose me. When the officiant declared them married, Roman kissed her with so much love that Tessa forgot anyone else was watching. The crowd erupted in applause, and Tessa felt a sense of rightness settle over her like a blessing. The reception was a celebration that blended their cultures seamlessly. Middle Eastern food sat alongside Italian dishes. They had a traditional first dance, but they also incorporated a dabbed line dance that had everyone laughing and clapping. Roman's father gave a speech in Arabic that was translated, speaking about finding home in another person. Tessa's mother gave a speech that was tearful but genuine, welcoming Roman into the family. I have watched my daughter become more herself since she met you, Nancy said, looking at Roman. She is braver, more certain, more alive. And while this is not the path I imagined for her, I can see that it is the right one. So welcome, Roman. Welcome to our family. Later, after the formal events had concluded and the party had moved into dancing and mingling, Tessa found herself alone with Roman on the venue's terrace, looking out at the water. We did it, she said, leaning into him. We did, Roman agreed, wrapping his arms around her. How do you feel? Complete, Tessa said. Like everything that was fragmented before has come together. I know what you mean. I have spent so much of my life feeling like I had to be one thing or another, American or Arab, professional or personal, but with you I get to be everything, all of who I am. That is what I want for us, Tessa said. A life where we do not have to choose between parts of ourselves, where our differences make us stronger. We will have challenges, Roman said. Raising kids, navigating family expectations, figuring out holidays and traditions. It will not always be easy. Nothing worth having is easy, Tessa said, but we will figure it out together. They stood there, wrapped in each other and the soft Seattle evening, and Tessa felt a profound sense of peace. This was her life now. Complicated and beautiful, traditional and unconventional, rooted in two faiths that somehow made one strong foundation. When they returned to the reception, hand in hand, Tessa's father approached Roman. "Can I have a word?" he asked. Roman nodded, and Tessa watched nervously as the two men walked a short distance away. She could not hear what they were saying, but after a few minutes, her father extended his hand. Roman shook it, and then to Tessa's amazement, her father pulled Roman into a brief hug. When Roman came back to her, his eyes were wet. "What did he say?" Tessa asked. "He apologized, said he had been wrong to judge me, to judge us. He said that watching us today, seeing how we had brought everyone together, he understood that faith is not about being the same. It is about how we treat each other." Tessa felt tears slip down her cheeks. "He said that, he did, and he said that any man who makes his daughter that happy is welcome in his home." It was not everything, but it was more than Tessa had hoped for. Progress, acceptance, a willingness to try. The following months were a whirlwind of adjustment. Tessa and Roman bought a house together, a beautiful craftsman in Queen Anne with space for the life they were building. They created a home that reflected both of their backgrounds. Artwork from the Middle East hung alongside family photos from Spokane. A prayer space for Roman in the study. A collection of religious texts that included the Quran and the Bible and commentary from various traditions. They figured out holidays, celebrating both Eid and Christmas, hosting dinners that brought their families together in new ways. Ramadan that first year was particularly meaningful. Tessa did not fast, but she supported Roman through it, waking before dawn to prepare suhoor meals, breaking fast with him each evening. She found a beauty in the ritual, in the discipline and devotion. "Thank you for doing this with me," Roman said one night during iftar. "It means more than you know." "This is our life," Tessa said simply. "Your traditions are my traditions now too, not because I have to embrace them, but because I want to understand what matters to you." In turn, Roman attended Mass with her sometimes, sitting quietly in the pew, respectful even if he did not participate fully. He learned the rhythms of the Catholic calendar, asked thoughtful questions about the saints and sacraments, showed genuine interest in what connected Tessa to her faith. "I see why this matters to you," he said after attending Easter Mass with her and her family. "There is something powerful about communal worship, about traditions that have been passed down for centuries." "That is what I love about both of our faiths," Tessa said. "They are ancient and enduring. They have survived because they offer something essential to people." 18 months after their wedding, Tessa discovered she was pregnant. The news filled her with joy and terror in equal measure. They had talked about children, had planned for them, but the reality was overwhelming. "We are going to be parents," she said to Roman, staring at the positive pregnancy test. "We are," Roman said, pulling her close. "We are going to be amazing parents. What if we mess this up? What if we cannot figure out the faith thing? What if our families put pressure on the baby? What if we do not agree on how to raise them?" "We will figure it out," Roman said calmly, "just like we have figured out everything else, together." They did figure it out, though it required constant communication and compromise. They decided to expose their child to both Islam and Catholicism, to let them participate in rituals from both traditions, to answer questions honestly and openly. When the baby could make their own choices about faith, they would support whatever path they chose. Tessa's mother had opinions, of course. "The baby should be baptized," she insisted during one visit. "Maybe," Tessa said. "Or maybe we will do an akika, the Islamic naming ceremony, or maybe both. We have not decided yet. But baptism removes original sin. It is necessary for salvation. Mom, I love you, but Roman and I are going to make these decisions together, based on what feels right for our family." It was hard establishing those boundaries, but necessary. Their daughter, Nora, was born on a bright morning in October. She was perfect, with Roman's dark eyes and Tessa's smile, and holding her, Tessa felt a love so profound it redefined everything she thought she knew about her own capacity for emotion. "She is ours," Roman whispered, cradling Nora in the hospital room. "She is ours," Tessa echoed. They ended up doing both ceremonies, a small baptism with Tessa's family present and an akika with Roman's community. Both felt meaningful, both felt right. Nora was welcomed into two traditions, blessed by two faiths, surrounded by love from all sides. As Nora grew, Tessa watched her daughter absorb the richness of her dual heritage with the easy acceptance of childhood. Nora learned prayers in Arabic and attended Sunday school. She fasted for a few hours during Ramadan and helped decorate the Christmas tree. She asked questions constantly. Why do we pray? What happens after we die? Why do some people believe different things? Tessa and Roman answered as best they could, always emphasizing that different beliefs did not mean one was right and another wrong. They taught Nora about respect, about curiosity, about finding her own truth. "Am I Muslim or Catholic?" Nora asked when she was 5. "You are both," Tessa said. "And you are neither. You are Nora, and you get to decide what feels true to you." "But what if I do not know?" "Then you keep exploring until you do, or you stay in the not knowing. That is okay too." By the time Nora started kindergarten, Tessa and Roman had found a rhythm that worked for their family. They still attended their respective places of worship sometimes, but they also created rituals that were unique to them. Friday night family dinners where they shared gratitudes, morning walks where they talked about big questions, bedtime stories that included tales from both Islamic and Christian traditions. Tessa's relationship with her family continued to evolve. Her parents were devoted grandparents to Nora, and while they still occasionally made comments about church attendance or religious education, they had softened considerably. Seeing their granddaughter thriving in a home filled with love and faith, even if it looked different than they had imagined, had changed their perspective. "You have built something beautiful," Tessa's mother said one day, watching Roman help Nora with her Arabic letters. "I did not see it at first, but I see it now." "Thank you, Mom," Tessa said, squeezing her hand. "That means everything." Work continued to be fulfilling for both of them. Tessa had been promoted to vice president of marketing, overseeing campaigns across all of Morrison's properties. Roman had successfully expanded the brand into international markets, and the company was thriving under his leadership. They supported each other's careers, tag-teaming parenting responsibilities, proving that two ambitious people could build both a family and professional success. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Roman surprised Tessa with a weekend getaway to San Juan Island. They left Nora with Lydia and spent 2 days hiking, eating incredible food, and reconnecting as a couple rather than just as parents and colleagues. "You remember when we first met?" Roman asked one evening as they watched the sunset from their rental cottage. "I remember being terrified of you," Tessa said, laughing. "The intimidating new CEO who was going to fire everyone. I remember thinking you were brilliant and beautiful and completely unimpressed with my title." "It was refreshing. I was impressed. I just did not want you to know it." Roman pulled her close. "These 5 years have been the best of my life. Even the hard parts, the conflicts and compromises and late-night arguments about whose turn it is to change diapers, all of it has been worth it." "We have built something extraordinary," Tessa agreed. "Not despite our differences, but because of them. You have made me braver, Roman. You have made me question things I took for granted and embrace things I did not understand. You have made me better. You have done the same for me. You have taught me that faith is not just about personal devotion. It is about community, about tradition, about passing something meaningful to the next generation. And you have shown me that love can bridge any divide if both people are willing to do the work." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the light fade over the water, hands intertwined. Tessa thought about the journey they had taken, from that first nervous meeting in the CEO's office to this moment, 5 years of marriage and a lifetime of love ahead. "I would not change anything," she said finally. "Not one single thing." "Neither would I," Roman said. "Though I might have kissed you sooner if I had known how good you are at it." Tessa laughed and kissed him to prove his point. And there, on the edge of the Pacific, wrapped in the warmth of the man she loved and the life they had built together, Tessa felt complete. Not because everything was perfect, but because it was real. Because they had chosen each other across every difference, every challenge, every moment of doubt. And they would keep choosing each other, every single day for the rest of their lives. Years later, when Nora was 8 and they were expecting their second child, a son they would name Adam, Tessa found herself reflecting on how far they had come. The journey had not been easy. There were still moments of tension with family, still challenging conversations about faith and tradition, still times when she and Roman had to navigate their differences with care and intention. But those differences were no longer obstacles. They were gifts. They had enriched their marriage, broadened their perspectives, taught their children that love transcends boundaries of religion and culture and expectation. Standing in their living room one Sunday afternoon, watching Roman teach Nora how to perform wudu while Christmas music played softly in the background, Tessa felt overwhelmed with gratitude. This beautiful, complicated, unconventional life they had created was more than she had ever dreamed possible. Roman caught her eye and smiled, and in that moment, Tessa knew with absolute certainty that their different faiths had not just coexisted in their relationship. They had woven together into something entirely new, a tapestry of belief and love and commitment that was stronger than either tradition alone. Their bond had been strengthened by their differences, not weakened. And that was the greatest blessing of all.